So we've been thinking in the last video about the war inside of Europe. The question's asking you, was it mainly a European war or not? So you're going to have to talk about the big things that happened outside of Europe. Now, we barely even scratched the surface on this. So if you want to do additional research, go for it. But this is what we've done inside of lesson about the war outside of Europe. The first thing we learnt about was the war in North Africa, but don't really stress about it. We did it for one lesson and we only really looked at Rommel and his character. All we really need to know is that compared to Operation Barbarossa, it was seen to be quite a civil war, as in a war where people were quite civil to each other. Aside from that, we didn't really cover it, although it is significant in a way. What we did in more detail was the attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan, which was where the Japanese, who are over here, wanted to control the Pacific Ocean, and they knew that the only people that were going to stop them were the Americans, so they bombed their naval base in Pearl Harbor. In retaliation to this, the Americans had a war with Japan, especially over here in these Eurasian islands, these Asian islands, until eventually, after the Germans had surrendered in Europe, they dropped the bomb first on Hiroshima, then on Nagasaki, which ended the war. Those are the main points we have learned about the war outside of Europe. Other points you might want to talk about in your answer that sort of straddles across being a European and a non-European is going to be the Battle of the Atlantic, which was where the Germans were using U-boats to shoot down ships, to shoot down British ships which were convoying food and supplies coming from America into Britain. We did that wonderful sort of chart task about how successful they are. If you want to talk about sea warfare, I'd focus on U-boats, Battle of the Atlantic. If you really want to push it, you might want to talk about capital ships and talk about aircraft carriers and how they came important for the Americans in their war against Japan. But we didn't do that in massive detail, so you need to do additional research in order to get that under your belt. So that should give you enough of an overview of both sides. If you didn't get anything, just rewind and watch it again. Rewind and watch the bits you didn't get until you get it.